All right, so we are here with Mr. Antong Lucky, the CEO and president of Urban Specialists.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Urban Specialists and what it is that you all do.
Oh, okay. Urban Specialist is an organization that was started maybe 27, 28 years ago by the late great Bishop Omar Jawar. It started out as Vision Regeneration, and then it metamorphosed in 2016 to Urban Specialist. But our express mission is to disrupt trends of violence and poverty in urban communities. So we do that by engaging and catalyzing those who are indigenous to those communities, those leaders who we call leaders, OGs. We catalyze them to do the work, and then we support them.
I love that. I love that. So, in terms of really understanding the perspectives of people that are directly affected by the issues that you all are addressing, is really key to creating that meaningful change. So, how do you bring community members into the process of identifying their own needs?
That's how do we do it? That's a prerequisite to do the work. We bring in, our focus is on community people.
Okay.
We believe that those who have proximity to the problem are best to define, to diagnose, to grab the solution to whatever we're dealing with. So we bring people in. We are very inclusive of the people that we serve. We believe that they are the solution. So we bring them in. So at every integral that we have people from the neighborhood, people from the community, people that have lived experiences that we incorporate as part of the solution of dealing with whatever we dealing, whatever the issue that we're dealing with.
Okay, all right. So I think it's safe to assume and bringing those people in that building relationships with maybe key community figures,
right,
can be really pivotal in that engagement process, right?
Yes.
So what strategies do you use to identify and connect residents and elected officials and service providers, other informal leaders, and how do they shape your organization's approach?
Okay, twofold. I think in any neighborhood, any community that you go into, therein lies individuals who are doing the work. People who are just doing the work. They have a passion. They may be doing it on a shoestring budget with no money, but something in life summoned them to do the work, whether they saw the light or they felt the fire. But whatever it is, it made them say, this my issue, I'm passionate about it, or this my community that I'm passionate about it. They exist. So we always seek out those individuals because those individuals, again, they do it because it's their passion, it's their mission. Those are the type of people that you want. They may not look like traditional people sometimes, in terms of what they look like, but they carry the rhythm of whatever neighborhood or whatever community that you serve. They carry that. And so we always bring them in. We're looking for people who are advocates of the work. You have to find individuals who are, again, passionate, because even in political leadership, those individuals are motivated by some of the same things that these individuals we talk about in community. You got to find them because everything look the same, but it's not the same. It's nuances when it comes to people who truly care and serve the neighborhood. You have to have a certain type of lens to be able to see the difference. You can look at it and it all look the same, but when it come down to it, there is a difference in terms of those people who are truly witnessing to communities. People who are truly that can say this person or this issue. It's a difference. You got to know those people, and I think sometimes most people don't consider this fact, and it's an important fact. But I think that considering that has to do with what your success is going to be, because you can have people who are very self-aggrandizing, who it's only about them, it's only about themselves, and they will put their self needs and concerns versus the community. You got people who claim to represent a certain subset of population, but they don't even spend time. They don't even know. They don't know nobody. And those people are not. It has to be people who has a passion and who is working for the express purpose of bettering somebody else or some community.
Yeah, I like what you say. Tell me, how do you think that affects how you approach community engagement?
I think it's definitely important because you have to approach this from the right perspective, very empathetic, not sympathetic, but empathetic to the people that you serve. So that plays a part. You know, you have to. You can't be Jesus Jr. in this work. You know, a lot of times organizations and leaders feel like they have all the answers and all the solutions, and a lot of times they parachute those solutions and those answers to the people. You know, versus understanding from the people what they want. You know, what their concerns. Because you can say, I know this is what people want. This is a poor community, or this is an underserved community, and they want this without even having talking to the people. And then you can bring them that and realize that that's not it. And you don't never want to be that person. You always want to begin with engaging with the population that you serve, because you're going to find people in that population, in that community, who have answers, who have some solutions that can be applicable to you. So I always start with them. And when you start with them, it definitely makes you approach this work differently.
Yeah, I love that. I talk to my students about that all the time, and I think you hit it. Like, it's key, the difference between being able to empathize and sympathize.
Exactly.
Right? So when you're engaging directly, then you're able to sympathize. But when you're coming in as like an external expert, and you don't see exactly what's going on, you're just kind of on the outside looking in. You can sympathize, but you really can't empathize with those individuals.
Right.
So I love that you said that.
Yes.
So, and I know you keep talking about like partnerships and you know, engaging with community members and leaders and things like that. So it sounds like collaboration is a pretty big game changer in the work that you all do. So tell me about a time when you were working with some stakeholders and it made a significant difference in the success of a program or initiative.
Run that back one more time.
Yeah. Share a time when working with a stakeholder made a significant difference in the success of a program or initiative.
I would take. I remember one time I was working for the the Foundation for Community Empowerment, and they had me working on in South Dallas. They had me working on the Slumlord Initiative, right? Because we were trying to do some development, but what we found out was that a lot of the properties in the neighborhood that we were trying to serve either had an absentee landlord, or it had a situation where the property was in probate court. So the city could never move on the properties because you had to, one, serve the person. And so if they're out of state absentee, you never get to serve them. Or if it's in probate court because somebody died and they didn't have a will and no next of kin could claim the property just sat as an eyesore in the neighborhood, right? And so I began to work with a bunch of homeowners, stakeholders in the community, right? To begin, because I started doing the research. And a lot of times when I would talk to them, they would just, this so-and-so property, you know, they, or whatever, right? But nobody clearly had a way of figuring out, like, how do we move on this burnt down house next to your house, Miss Willie Mae? How do we do that? So when I started getting that information, I started having meetings with them. I started meeting with them, and I was enlightening them on the process, right? And so as a result of that, we were able to get the city to consider a different way of approaching abandoned properties, and we got the city, those stakeholders, and got the city to take get those properties that was on the tax roll and give them back to a nonprofit for $1 so that they can do affordable housing.
Oh wow!
But it took those community leaders and those residents, the organizations, it's at the top of my head. It's crazy. The neighborhood associations.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You know, it took those leaders, man, to really put the pressure on the city and say, hey, we armed with this data that I had done as research for the Slumlord Initiative to get the city to move, and thus removing those abandoned properties. That's one instance where I just felt like it was the stakeholders, it was the community, it was that information that helped us be successful in getting some of those eyesores out of the community.
Okay. So kind of going back a little bit to again talking about those lived experiences and personal stories. How do you ensure that community voices are centered in program planning and maybe policy efforts or whatever initiatives you're working on?
I just, I don't believe that you can do this work without the voices of those individuals. It's like my mentor once told me, whenever they trying to find a cure to something, that you have antibody to something, you have to extract some of the disease to make the antibody. That's how I approach this work. Like, you cannot do this work if you don't include and involve people who are affected by the work. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do it. How can you do it if you don't have the ideas, the opinions, the experiences of people who are affected by the work? So their part is not necessary. It's critical. It's an important part of informing how you make decisions. If you're making decisions without that voice, you merely practicing. Yeah. You merely practice. You have to include their voice in everything you do. Everything that we do here at Urban Specialists includes the voices of people who've been affected in one way or another.
Okay. And I'm an insider. I'm gonna be transparent, so I know a lot of it about what you all do. So share with us in terms of including those voices and lived experiences. You all do a lot of coalition building.
Yes.
Talk to me more about that.
Yes, we do. Specifically, we do our USC3, which is our Urban Specialist Community Collaborative Change Maker meeting. And again, collaboration is one of our guiding principles. So if somebody represents Urban Specialists, they don't collaborate, then they probably don't represent Urban Specialists. Because we believe that the issues that we're dealing with in our community, that you have to have multiple touch points, because our community has been deprived of resources, sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. We've been deprived of services, et cetera, that you have to have multiple people serving communities. You have to have multiple people coming up with ideas and solutions for community. The more touch point that a family have, the more mentors, the more resources to mental health, the more job opportunity, job training that you can have for a family, the more touch points, the better off that family can be. And so we believe in collaboration. We believe in bringing people together to solve that together, because I believe collectively, if we do it together, the success of that individual or that family or that community is that much higher when we do that. And so that's a part of our work. We have our victim service component, right? This is a component where we have, anytime a family has been affected by violence, Urban Specialists come alongside these families. We probably the first or the second person these families talk to in their time of need, and we provide like burial service, burial funds. We provide repast forms, balloon releases. Then we connect them to the Texas Crime Compensation Fund. We help them with that process. We connect them to some of our mental health partners, and all of these resources come out of our USC3. So our USC3 is to go find resources and find organizations and service providers who can serve communities, right? And so when it comes to our victim service, when we get with a call come in, or our change maker go out, somebody's been shot, somebody's been murdered, we pull from that same group of resources, et cetera, and connect them to the family. So we have that part. So I'm happy about our victim service. We provide a whole bunch of stuff, help a lot of families. We have our Bishop Omar School of Entrepreneurship. That's one way we attack poverty, because we know that most people in our communities they have entrepreneurial skills and a skill set just naturally, right? The sheer survival, gotta make it happen, I'm a hustler. And so we said, if we could provide these individuals from our urban communities with the foundational knowledge of entrepreneurship for their businesses, and then connect them to institutions and banks and et cetera, that we know that when they scale, the first person that they're gonna hire is somebody within their family or within their neighborhood. The first 5 people that they're gonna hire is from somebody from their family, and thus that just breaks the cycle of poverty and dependency in community. And then we have our OGU, which is our original Guys United, which was Original Gangsters University. We changed it, and that's specifically for people with lived experience, like brothers and sisters coming out of prisons, people who we know got influence, but they don't know where to use it. Mm-hmm. So we bring them into this community of people who are just like them, who are trying to figure out a way to use their influence for good. So we train them, we show them different stuff, and then we catalyze them back to their neighborhoods. We say, let you go back to your neighborhood and you start a mentoring program, you start an after school program, and then we connect them with like Dr. Kelli and UTA. And we say, here go a doctor of social work that we can connect you with to help your numbers make sense. In the case with JoJo and others, we say, here go some people that you probably will never meet, but they can help you professionalize and structure what you're doing. We take that passion and structure. So we got many instances like that. So our OGU is a growing community of leaders, right, who just said, I'm in, I want to help. And then we got a whole bunch of other stuff that's going through. We do a whole bunch of other events.
And I like how you utilize your community leaders to actually even go back into the community and do community mobilization and community organizing. In terms of like I know you all do like clean up neighborhoods and it's going to do a lot of walks to really go back into those communities and re-engage and get the members of the community also involved in the efforts and the initiative. Yeah,
because I think a lot of, contrary to popular belief, I think there is a lot of people who, if given the opportunity, if given the know-how, the knowledge capital, they would go back into neighborhoods and become the leaders, the drivers of change in our neighborhood. So here at Urban Specialists, we try to build upon that, and we try to connect as many people as we can, give them the tools that they need so that they initiate change in their neighborhood. We don't tell them what they should, what they could or can't do. We just say, hey, we're going to equip you with this information. We're going to connect you to some people, and then you go. You just go. And then I'm going to tell you the beauty of this is last weekend I went to a couple events, and I was in those events, and I was saying, how they know each other? One to another. Like, how these? And then it dawned on me, I said, these are individuals who met at our USC 3 or met through our event, and they connected outside of us to bring some type of event or some type of change to the community. So the system is working.
It's working.
It's working.
It's working. That's good.
That's
good. And so I love that there's so much just education and empowerment going on. And we know that's necessary because many urban communities, they face challenges that are deeply rooted in historical inequities and social barriers and things like systemic barriers. So what are some systemic barriers that continue to shape the concerns of the community that you serve?
I think it's perception. I think it's perception bigger than anything. Just, when you look at people who are trying to get jobs, being our returning citizens who are coming back, who have paid their debt, trying to I think it's just a perceptual bias towards them. I think so the job, I think even in terms of living, apartments, housing, they still have these barriers that people face that keeps them from being able to do the things that they need to do. I mean, it's a lot, but more so it's mindset too, because I want to be accountable on that end as well. We treat people to be accountable to their situation, their circumstances, and to have this resilient mindset, to be very resilient and don't give up and keep pushing and all that. That's kind of like our message, man.
Yeah.
And so it's that, right? And then even the work that we do, like this, in communities trying to disrupt violence and poverty is not easy work. It's not the kid that figure out the Rubik's Cube and everybody happy, to do the science project, shake the Coke and the thing blow up. It's not that. It's real life work, and it's not sexy work. It's hard work, right? And so the challenge for us is getting people to really understand how important and how impactful this work is. Because in this new day and age, most people say evidence-based is kind of like code word. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this for UTA, evidence-based, the way I internalize it, is code language to rob the people who really do this work out of the funding and the resources. Because I tell people that my mentor once told me that if somebody is, for whatever reason, 30,000 feet underwater, and a diver works with that person and brings them up 20,000 feet, to the person that's looking on the shore, they still saying he underwater. He's still underwater. But to the diver that's working with that person is saying, I just got 10,000 more feet to get this person, and they're going to be at sea level. It's progress to the diver, but it's different to the person that's looking, right? And so a lot of times, a lot of the work, when you got brothers out in the community who are disengaged, or who are disarming, doing conflict resolution, taking guns out of people's hands, talking young people off the ledge, et cetera, it's hard to quantify that data. Yeah. Because a lot of times that stuff don't show up in a statistic report. Only time it show up in a report is somebody got shot or something happened and it's documented. But a lot of the stuff that happens in this work that never see the light of the day, the practitioners that does it don't get credit for it because it's not evidence, or it's not quantitative data. A lot of this is empirical data. And so it's hard for people to respect the work, especially the academians. Not you, but I'm just saying the other academians. It's hard for them to accept that this kind of work yield. Like yesterday, I was at the mall. This guy came up to me, and he was thanking me. He was talking to me, and it was kind of weird. Like I didn't know what he was talking about, right? And then as he kept talking, because he was just like, you could tell he was just locked in, and he said, and then I caught it because he said, man, you helped me, man, during COVID when I was at my lowest point. He said, you and the organization came in and brought my kids a bunch of toys. Y'all gave us money, groceries, a whole lot of stuff, right? He started talking, and I started remembering it. And it's crazy for me to remember that. That was 5 years ago. But he was saying, man, I'm in a better place now. He said, man, whatever you need, man, I follow everything you do. That was 5 years ago, right? You can't quantify that. Right. But this guy was saying, man, my life is that gesture that you and the organization did gave me just enough kick to get out of that rut I was in, and now I'm in a better place. He would ask me, how can he help me? But it's stuff like that, man, that you can't quantify. Maybe you can. Maybe, UTA can help us quantify this data.
I love that you say that because, a lot of times we get caught up, and I think a lot of quantitative researchers get a lot more respect than qualitative researchers. Initially, I was a qualitative researcher, even going into my dissertation, but I was kind of forced to add a quantitative component. It had to be mixed methods in order for me to be able to make it as rigorous as it needed to be. And so what you're talking about is that qualitative data, the experiences, right? Like how do we measure the impact of the experience? Exactly. And it's so hard. So I definitely understand what you're saying. You're not discounting anything. A lot of qualitative researchers are probably out there like clapping like, yeah, you preaching right there. But that's what it is. It's really hard to put a number to
Yeah.
those experiences
Yeah.
and really improving people's lives,
Yeah.
not just based on services provided and
Right.
things like that,
Right.
but just kind of having those other outcome
Right.
measures of success.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand. In terms of, we kind of went off script a little bit. I'm sorry, but that's good.
Yeah.
In terms of working with nonprofits and businesses and government agencies that you talked about, really kind of amplified impact of what you're doing. How does your organization collaborate with other entities to enhance community engagement? I know that you said that sometimes you all maybe collaborate with informal leaders, right? That may not look like your traditional.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit more about that.
Again, we believe in collaboration, so we work with a lot of other organizations. I tell you, for instance, we just adopted this apartment complex, and we have a mental health organization, right? Who work with low income families to provide like mental health services, trauma, et cetera, right? And so what we've done, we partner with them to every time we go into a community, we bring them in because they don't have the ground credibility and entry into neighborhoods. So we say, and every time we go into a neighborhood, we have a couple of behavior partners, mental health partners that we take with because we understand a lot of these kids are going through a lot of trauma. They ACE scores is off the roof. And so we saying we got to bring in people who up, and we got to make it cool for these families that we serve to say, let me try this service, let me try therapy, et cetera, et cetera. And so we do that. Like we do some parent investments. Our parent investments are a partnership through the City of Dallas Office of Community Care and Engagement and the Parks and Recreation Centers, where we go into Parks and Recreation Centers. We bring in family mothers, and we do education with mothers on how to prevent your child from being a victim or a perpetrator of violence. So every time we do that, we take in our mental health partners, so they lead with us on side of us as we go into each of these communities. So we are very big on collaborating with other community organizations and partners because, again, for us, it's about the individual. It's about the community. We saying we don't care who take the credit. We just want them to get served.
Right.
And we and any partner that we partner with, we make sure that they are vision aligned with that. That it's not about us. It's about making sure these communities get served.
Yeah, I love that. That's why I like the coalition building that you all do, because I think there's not a shortage of services in Dallas. There's so many organizations that do so many things, but no one person can meet all the needs of the community. So just kind of building those collaborations allow for more comprehensive engagement and care to be done.
Because at the end of the day, if you serve in a family or community and they become better because of some people you introduced them to, they still gonna thank you because they never would have got the service or the individual if you didn't introduce them. Yep. So we lead with introducing communities to our partners in hopes that they get better.
That's awesome. And doing that, I know sometimes different backgrounds and priorities can sometimes make partnerships challenging, right?
Yeah.
So what are some obstacles that you face when working across cultural or organizational lines, and how do you navigate those challenges?
I think for us, the biggest challenge for us is in this idea that those expertise, those who are considered experts, sometimes don't have degrees. Those who we consider experts sometimes been to prison. Those we consider experts are individuals who come from these communities that we serve. And that's a hard pill for some people to follow or to accept. So that's a big challenge. So we always trying to highlight those individuals who are exceptionally well at what they do, who may not fit the norm, who may not look like an expert. So those are the big challenging people perception and perspectives is the biggest challenge for us. And we always trying to look for individuals who are killing it, who are knocking it out the game, because we don't believe those people are numbers, are not like exceptions. We just believe that they don't have the opportunities that most people have. If they was given a straight opportunity, they would exceed just like anybody else. Yeah. That's the biggest challenge for us. Yeah. Working across cultural lines, like, you know, we would, I'm not gonna talk about that. I ain't gonna put them out there, but we just faced that recently, you know, with a contract situation where they were bringing us in to help, and when the other parties realized who were bringing it in and what type of people, because we again have lived experienced people, they balked at that. They was like, no, like, and we saying no, yes, you know. You know what was funny? You just made me think about when me and Omar, late great Bishop Omar, we was in Washington D.C. like in the early 2000s, and we was working with the Dallas Housing Authority then, and Omar was speaking to Congress, and it was a lady. She was an old like white lady, white hair, pearls on. I can't think of her name, but she was very old, and she said to him, she said, "Are you insinuating that you're gonna have felons working with kids?" Because we were working inside of a DHA property. And I remember, oh my man, because I was like, I wonder how you gonna respond to that. You know, because I'm already nervous because I'm in the White House, you know, and I got a felony. And so, without hesitation, he said, "Man, with all due respect, it probably was a felon who made the child." And everybody paused like that, and then they fell out like that. Everybody's kind of like, it became a humor, you know, because nobody even thought about that. Right. You know what I'm saying? Nobody even thought about that. You talk about kids who are coming from these type of communities where 1 in every 3 black men is on probation, parole, or in prison. And you got black men who have redeemed themselves and transformed, who trying to work with kids, et cetera, et cetera. 1 in every 3 black men in prison, parole, probation, and you have black men who are trying to come serve kids. You know what I'm saying? So you disqualify them, and that's a whole nother story. We ain't gonna talk about that, but you just made me think of that. You just made. Sometimes a lot of stuff we have to think about, especially as it relates to community and serving people and all that. And it's about being empathy. Having empathy for people. We live in a society where we condemn people, and it's all about condemnation. It's never about redemption and transformation. Yeah. And we got to be proponents of transformation and redemption, giving people an opportunity. None of us can say somebody is not worthy to be redeemed. Yeah. None of us can say that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. You just made me think about, I talk about in my class all the time about really understanding who key informants are, right? When it comes to what is the best solution or the best program, or, you know, even what is the problem. And a lot of times I have to tell my students, I know, you know, you want to go straight to, you know, the academic journal and see what the research says, but those with lived experiences are the experts, and those are the voices that you're not going to see in those academic journals. So.
And I appreciate you for challenging that, because that's important. And that's not to say that the academic side is not relevant. I'm not saying that at all. Absolutely, yeah. I'm saying, like, that side must be married with the lived experience and practitioner, like researchers and all that, statisticians, to get the statistics and all that stuff. All that data has to be shared with the people who got the lived experience and who are the practitioners in the neighborhood. That's where the married come in at. Exactly. Can't be one or the other. Got to be both working to improve.
Especially when historically, you know, those people that we're creating programs for or making solutions for are historically not part of
the situation
and their data collection, right?
They just parachute something in, it don't work.
That's why it's important. So, absolutely. All right, so tell me more about some of your kind of going back, I'm so sorry. Okay. So mistrust toward institutions. As a result, you made me think about this. Sometimes mistrust towards institutions are often real barrier
Right.
when it comes to marginalized communities, right?
Right.
So, what approach does your organization take to help rebuild trust and to create authentic, long-lasting relationships?
Oh, I love that question. That's a good one. That's one of the ones like I just like a baseball game. I'm gonna hit out of the park. But mistrust of institutions, right? I'll give you a specific example. I am myself is a returning citizen. Uh, I do work with the former and current police chief, right? Uh, there is a big breakdown in mistrust between law enforcement and community, right? And that's a known fact. Um, my approach to that is one, the community is not a monolithic idea. Mm. That's one. Law enforcement is not a monolithic idea. That's two. Oftentimes, people look at these two institutions as if they in conspiracy to commit harm. Mm-hmm. They look at the actions of some individuals and they blame the whole system. For instance, you can say, you can look at it, you can develop a picture, an avatar of somebody out the community who is a criminal. He got a hoodie on, he got this, he got that, right? And you can say, from a law enforcement perspective, every young black person with a hoodie into this is a criminal because you have associated that with his blackness, and that's not true. We have a lot of kids who are straight A students who are geniuses who look like the culture, but they not criminals. But that perception can make you say that, or vice versa. You have an officer who acts not in accordance with his duty as a peace officer to a black person, and that person can develop mistrust and say that's the way the system is, mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. But we have to be diligent about breaking that stuff down. Like my North Star with DPD, Dallas Police Department, is this: we agreed on this, and this is our North Star. And how do you build trust? We understand that there are some people in our community that need a prison ministry. We understand that. We have law-abiding people in our community. We have some people who just ain't gonna abide by it. We understand that you have people on the force who just don't act like an officer, and those people need to be dealt with. Those two facts is what keeps our communities separated. Mm-hmm. I believe that a relationship between law enforcement and community is integral to public safety. That's just my belief. And so what I say in my North Star is this. I say lawlessness, no matter where it's found, cannot be tolerated. So whether you a police officer with a gun and a badge, or you a gang member with a gun and a rag, lawlessness cannot be tolerated. That simple statement, right, builds trust, because what that statement says, as a community, we hold people accountable, and as a department, we hold people accountable, because the biggest mistrust is the non-accountability. Mm-hmm. Officers' immunity, a community that experience so much violence, but they got a no snitch rule and nobody talk. Mm-hmm. So it's those two statements that keep these two entities from working together for safety and peace in the neighborhood. So if we saying, as a community member, my job is to be an upstanding citizen and to advocate against the violence that happened in my neighborhood, I'm being accountable. And as a person of the law, if an officer is acting not in accordance with what it means to be a police officer, that we've got to hold it. We can't have a tight lip. We got to hold that individual accountable. Then that gives a sense of surety to community, and it gives a sense of surety to officers. And that's how you build trust. You cannot, that was just one example using law enforcement and community, but you got to have like a North Star that we both agree to, that's mutually beneficial and respectful for both parties. Hate that was a long answer.
That's
but
good. No,
yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I was really processing and reflecting it. All right. So some of the most powerful initiatives come directly from the community, and I think you spoke to that. Can you share an example where a successful effort has emerged through collaboration with different groups within the community?
Yes, we have our Killing Ain't Cool movement, which is basically an awareness campaign to say that the violence that we see in our neighborhood is not cool. It's not a cool thing. That we stand against. So we do these rolling activations in different communities where we come into the community. We bring resources to the community. We don't tell the community to come to the resource. We bring the resources to the community, and we do a partnership with Smash the Topic, which is a local platform that tracks when violence happens in neighborhoods. So it has a very wide range of viewers. And so whenever we do any of our events, we have Smash the Topic to come out. Because the whole thing is to get the awareness out. A lot of times, a lot of mess. Our deal is we fight violence, especially particularly black on black violence. And so, brown on brown violence. So, a brown on black violence, a black on brown violence. So, that's what we focus at, man. And we try to make sure that we try non-traditional ways or unconventional ways of getting the message to the people who are the perpetrators of the violence that we speaking of. Oftentimes, these young people, because lack of mentors, a lack of fathers, a lack of positive role models, they're operating off impulse and they don't get the message. So we found different ways to make sure that they get the message, because all we try and do is create that pause. A lot of stuff that's happening in our culture is impulse reaction. People who know each other get into an argument and then boom, they shoot it, So we trying to create the pause in culture by finding different ways to get the message to the people who need to hear the message. If you don't never look at the news, you don't know how serious it is out here. But the minute you start looking at the news, you start thinking, I may not want to flip that dude out in traffic. I might just need to just keep driving, because I seen on the news somebody flip somebody off in traffic and they end up dead. And I don't want to die over something like that. So it's a lot of times it's awareness. And so we've applied that in our approach, communicating and collaborating with different means and different organizations, different platforms to get the message to the people who are most likely to become perpetrators or victims. And so we do it with the bloggers. We just do this whole non-traditional way of getting that message out. We found that to be effective. We found that to be very effective.
That's good. All right. Well, I know a lot of times when you hear about social work, you think about that direct practice with an individual,
right?
Help meet the immediate needs of a family. But a lot of the students that I work with are aspiring macro social workers, so they want to work within the community alongside community organizations with programming and community organizing and other initiatives like the work that you all do. So for those that are interested in macro social work or maybe nonprofit leadership and really engaging with marginalized communities, what advice would you offer them to be able to work alongside an organization like yours to create lasting impact?
Man, I would say to the students, first I would say this: working with a nonprofit in community is the sure way. This Antong saying this, how that commercial come on and say the views and thoughts may not be the opinion of the station. Right. So that's me. These are my views and thoughts. This ain't every special. But I think for aspiring social work students, man, working with an organization, community organization, finding the right community organization and working with an organization to do community work is the sure way to self-actualization. I can guarantee you that that's like something that no organization gonna tell you, but you gonna have that experience to where you really realize and put things in proper perspective. And those organizations truly need you and what you know. I mean, it's crazy that you're having this conversation because I think me and Omar was talking about this, man, early 2000, just the need for, social workers, et cetera, who have this knowledge to partner with organizations who are doing the work because organizations don't have that kind of access. Like I said earlier and I alluded to earlier, a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals who are leading organizations, they do this work because something inspired them to do this work. Whether, like I said, they felt the fire, thought they was going to hell, or they seen the light. And they do this work. And what they be missing is social workers, individuals who have a specialized discipline, a specialized understanding that can help them frame the work that they do. And it's not that far off. It's not that far off. They doing it. They day in and day out with the work. All they need is your expertise and showing them how to I call it professionalize the work that they doing. That's the biggest piece that we need. We need that data that you guys can get, that know-how that you guys offer. And I just ask you, when you come into these organizations, be very patient with them because people are used to just doing this work and just doing it day in, day out without the help because you have to do it. When you're passionate about it, you got to get it done. But just be patient and slowly, suggest things to us. But I promise you that organization is going to appreciate you and you're going to appreciate that organization and you're going to self-actualize. You're going to say, it's going to be the beginning of you understanding why it's important, why this work is important, because a lot of times you don't get to see that. But seeing families up front and close and personal and seeing the impact on them is something that you just can't pay for. It's like having a job and, getting this crash course in life and empathy.
Yes. Yeah. And last question, I know it wasn't provided, but just to take it a step further, this last question and make it more realistic.
Yeah.
If you were right now looking for a social worker, what role do you see that social worker filling for urban specialists?
Man, I got a couple of roles, but mainly we have so many programs, and I think I'm a social worker anyway. I started sociology. And I just love understanding people and systems and all that kind of stuff. It's just like what I do in my spare time. But I would love to have individuals who could come alongside us and help us collect the data and tell us what we're looking for, what we need to be looking for. Just that alone. If I could just get that, to give us the data and then let us use the data to dictate and inform how we move, that kind of deal. If I had that, boy, say, we'll be on our way to being a national organization. We would.
Awesome. Yeah. And that is definitely a role that a social worker could fill. So thank you so much for the time. Thank you for, carving time out of your day and the things that you're doing out in the community. Is such amazing work going on out there. But thank you for offering your insight and really helping us understand how to more effectively engage with marginalized communities.
Yes. Thank y'all for having me. I look forward to getting some UTA students here soon. Thank y'all.